Okay, thank you, Drew, for the presentation and introduction. Thank you, everybody, for joining for this second webinar on pros.com. I'm really happy to be able to present MateCat again. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to take about half an hour of your time for the presentation and demo. The first part is going to be a very short, I think 9 or 10 slides presentation about what MateCat is. And then we're going to go into a demo, which is going to be actually in 2 parts. One, how we translate the fast way, and 2, more in-depth features, more advanced features of the MateCat tool. Now, of course, as Drew was mentioning, I'll be more than happy to reply to any queries you might have about the software, its features, its roadmap, anything you think about. Just leave us a question and we'll try to reply that in the second part of this webinar. Now, let's start with the short presentation. So, MateCat, free and open source translation software. That's what MateCat is. It has an innovative business model that allows us to keep the software free and open source for everybody to use. So, a brief overview of the presentation today. So, I'm going to talk about, first of all, about what MateCat is. It's a rather new CAT tool, so maybe not all of you are familiar with it. So just a couple of words about it are worth spending. Why it's free? Not just because we are a bit crazy, but there's a reason behind that. And then how we can actually translate with MateCat. The fast way, as I was mentioning, and advanced options. Finally, there's something more about the translation tool that we were presenting. That is, you can make extra money with it. And I'm going to talk about it for a couple of minutes, just to let you understand what you can do with MateCat, also in that respect. So, what is MateCat? Now, it's a free translation tool for translators and language service providers, so translation companies. Totally free, online, so it just works in a browser, no need to install or maintain any software, we will do it for you. Supports mostly any language pairs, and the 69 actually file formats that we use in the industry. So pretty much anything you come across, you can translate with MateCat. For us, what we're trying to do is disrupt the current status quo. So technology, nowadays, translation technology, can be charged thousands of dollars a year. Now we are offering that for free. Another key element of MateCat is reuse. So we want to make reuse very easy. It's not just reusing what you've been translating, but also what everybody else already translated. What we did is we crawled the web, so we went throughout the web and tried to identify the best websites available in multiple languages. I don't know, take for instance the Apple website or the Nike website. Any website that is available in multiple languages, we try to find those, extract the content in the different languages, and align those sentences, make them available to you, so that if somebody already translated a sentence, you don't need to translate it again, you can just improve on that. We can provide it to you as a suggestion. We don't just use translation memory, public one, but we also use private translation memory. So if you want to use your own private translation memories, you can do that in MateCat. And on top of that, you also get statistical machine translation for free. So that helps you translate faster and maybe even increase your margins. Then outsourcing. So in MateCat, there's one more thing that you can do. Whenever you find or you run across a project that you don't have time to do, maybe, or your client asks for a translation in a language pair that you don't manage. Now, in MateCat, you can manage that as well. You can outsource it to other professional translators who can do the job for you, and then you resell that to your client. So these are the 3 main features of MateCat. So free, online, then reuse made easy, and outsourcing. Now, what will you love about MateCat? This is what our current users love the most, and I assume that if you start using MateCat, you will basically fall in love with the same things. First thing, of course, productivity. So translate more words per hour. Now, reusing content and using also machine translation, on average, you get from 10 to 20% more matches than with other CAT tools. So you can translate faster because you get more help for your translations. You translate in the cloud. That means that you can work from anywhere. Let's say you start working at home, then you move to the office, you continue working from there, or you get on a train, you can translate from the train with your laptop on a different computer, no problem. And you never lose your files. So the files are always stored safely in the cloud. Finally, you can increase your business by offering additional language pairs to your customers. Maybe you don't translate from, say, English into Urdu or Vietnamese. Well, now you can with MateCat and the help of other professional translators. Now, I was mentioning this at the beginning. MateCat is free, and of course, it's not free because we are so rich that we don't need money, but because we see technology as a commodity for services. If you think about it, it's something very common today. When you use Uber to call for a ride, to get a ride, you don't actually pay for the technology. You don't pay for the app on your mobile phone. You just pay for the service, so the actual ride. When you use LinkedIn, Gmail, Drive, those are all free. That's all free software that you can use to make money yourself. And those companies are making money by selling services, so maybe advertising in some cases. Even Android or iOS from Apple, those are free. In the case of iOS, you pay for the hardware. So the technology that lays behind this is entirely free, and we try to do the same with MateCat. So we say, okay, why selling the software when we can provide the software for free and then add the translation services in there? Why does it make sense? Well, the translation industry is quite large. It's worth around $37 billion. When you look at that, 98.7% goes into translation services. Only 1.3% is software. So if you try to sell software in the translation industry, you're actually only targeting that 1.3%. When we started with MateCat, we said, maybe let's focus on the largest part, on the 98.7%. And the reason why we think it works is that today, translation companies, so language service providers, face specific pains. They can't afford to say no to their customers, and that's the same really for professional translators. The competition is very fierce. When you say no to your customer, that customer will go to somebody else. So sometimes they ask for an order in a language pair that you cannot provide. You can't say no. You can't just say no. You just go, usually look for new freelancers. You try to look for other colleagues who can do the job. But by doing that, you have two main risks. One is you're not any longer in control of the costs, so you may lose money or decrease your margins, and you're no longer in control of quality because you have to find some freelancer that you cannot trust. And so those are the challenges that language service providers, translation companies are facing today. This is worth around $6 billion. So what translation companies outsource to other translation companies is worth $6 billion. And that's where MateCat is positioned. So MateCat is trying to address this $6 billion market, to sell translation services to that market, and to do that, we provide the translation technology for free to everybody. So there's a business model behind MateCat that is, let's say, a bit original as compared to other CAT tools or translation tools. And that's why we can afford to continue providing and maintaining this technology totally free and even open source, really. But enough with the description of what MateCat is, why it's free, what the business model is. Let's see how MateCat really works. So let's try it. Let's move to the other desktop here. So MateCat, as I was mentioning at the beginning, it's a web-based software. All you need to do to use it is just go to www.matecat.com. That's it. No need to register, no need to log in. You can just go to this web page and upload any document to translate. And that's what I'm going to do now. So I'm going to try and translate a document that I prepared here. So I'm going to upload it to MateCat. It gets imported and prepared for translation. It's already done. But I'm going to show you first what the document, how the document looks like. It's a pretty standard docx file with some formatting, an image, a table, and I mean something pretty common that we get every day, I guess. So once you upload it to MateCat, the file gets imported, and this button lights up. So the first thing you want to know really is how much work you have to do. So let's click on Analyze and find out. Now, we run the analysis by matching the content of this file with many sources. One is the largest public translation memory out there. The one that I was describing before, that we created by crawling the web, finding multilingual web pages, aligning them, their content, and making it available as a translation memory for translators. That's 15 billion words available for free to any translator. Of course, you can use your private translation memories here to leverage content that you already translated, and you also use machine translation. So the original document contains 314 words. In MateCat, you only translate 160. You get, of course, the usual breakdown of the analysis here, what you're used to in other CAT tools maybe. Then you click on Translate, Open, and you are taken to this web page. Now, this URL is actually all you need to translate. When you go to this URL, you're taken to the project MateCat docx, which is from English into Italian. This is the job ID, and then a password. This password makes the URL unique. So only the person who has this URL can access this page. Nobody else can access this page. In the left-hand column here, you can see the source text. It's been broken down into individual segments, of course, just like in any other CAT tool. And in the right-hand side, so here, that's where you do your translation. Now, in this case, I'm getting a 100% match, and I can go and see where it comes from. You can see here that it comes from the public TM. So somebody already translated this sentence, gain control over your translations, as prendi il controllo delle mie traduzioni. Now, this is not a very good translation, so I can improve on that. Prendi il controllo delle tue traduzioni. That's a much more correct translation. And then I can approve and move on to the next segment. Okay, I'm not going to fix all of this translations, maybe just this one, like that. But even after translating just a few segments, what I can do is I can download a preview of the document. So I click Preview, and here is the entire document, all in Italian. So you see the same formatting, of course. The image is there, the table is there, this little yellow area, and it's all in Italian. Even though I only translated or fixed, let's say, a couple of sentences, everything is in Italian because we are using previously translated documents and machine translation to generate the target file, so that you get a feeling that everything gets translated, that the layout and formatting are preserved, and you're perfectly sure that once you're done with your translation, you will have your document ready for your client. Basically, this is how you do translation in MateCat. This is the fast way to create a project and translate with MateCat. But of course, there's more to it than just this feature. So let's try again by looking at more advanced functionalities of MateCat. So I'm going back again to this www.matecat.com page, and I'll try to create a new project. In this case, okay, just going like this. I'm going to upload a glossary, the document to translate, and a translation memory. So in this case, I'm receiving from the client the document to translate, this MateCat docx, but the client also sent me a translation memory and even a glossary. So all I need to do is just drag and drop the files here, and what MateCat does is it generates a private translation memory for this TMX file. It understands that TMX file is to be used as a reference. It understands that the glossary is to be used as a reference, and that the only file to translate is this MateCat.docx. Okay, this is something that MateCat does on its own. But of course, you can add other translation memories. So you click here on Add Your Personal TM, and you bring up this interface. Here, you get a list of all the private translation memories that you have. And they are identified by this private key. The key is basically a sort of a password that protects your private translation memory is in a private vault in the MateCat servers. Now, the key itself is pretty difficult to remember, but you can also add descriptions. So let's say that this is prose TM that I'm going to use today, so I'm going to add that. But I also want to use this one, this one, this one. So I'm adding more translation memories. And let's say that TM for information technology is the one that I want to use as a first source. So I put it in the first place. Prose TM is the one that I want to update. So I want to write into that TM. So I'm going to mark this as update. And of course, if I have matches, I want to pre-translate them. So let's mark them as pre-translate. So I'm setting up everything with private translation memories. Of course, you can see here, you can import TMX, but you can even export your TMX or delete the TM. Once you're done, you can just remove it. So let's close here, and let's move on to the analysis again. Oops. Let's try again, like this. So let's upload the file. Sorry about that. Sometimes these things happen. Okay, that's much better. So let's add again the TMs that I was doing before. Because the advantage here is that you get to see again how it works. So I was mentioned before, I want to update the prose.tm, and I want to pre-translate everything. So let's say close, and then analyze. Now, in this case, of course, for the analysis, I'm going to use the TMX that I uploaded, and I'm going to use any other matches that I had in my private TMs. Now, one more thing that I want to do here is I don't want to translate the entire document myself because I'm pretty lazy. So I'm going to split this into some parts. Let's say you can split it into up to 30, but it's a small one. So let's say just 2. I'm going to split this. Basically, now I'm creating 2 similar jobs. And I can open this, translate, open. I'm opening the second part. And as you can see, I'm taken to the second half of this document. Why is this useful? Because I can start working on this part, and I can send this part to another translator. It's not been assigned to me, but maybe I can send it to one of my colleagues. And we can work together on this interface, sharing the same translation memory, same glossary, and even the same document. Because when I click on preview, I get the entire document, not just my chunk, the entire thing. So I can go on like this, translating. Maybe I get something that I don't know how to translate, so like this. Average sex per word. Okay, it's not that difficult, but let's say I have a doubt. I can ask my colleagues, hey, can you help me out here? So basically, in MateCat, collaboration is very easy because you can split the documents, you can share the same translation memory, same glossaries, same files even, and not just that, you can even talk to your colleagues or even to the project manager, even to the client by sharing comments at the segment level. It's very similar to what you get in Google Docs, if you're familiar with that. So pretty easy experience for collaboration. And of course, you can download the document, and just like before, it's going to be the same thing with the same formatting, and the entire document gets translated there. You can see that there are bits here in blue. These are basically matches coming from the translation memory because we said, let's pre-translate everything that is a 100% match. Now, what happens if, while I'm translating, I want to add another translation memory? I can do that from here. Same panel as before, I can add a new one, etc. But if I send this URL to another translator, so let's say to a colleague, or maybe even to a translation company, so I'm sending him the same URL for the project, you can see the same content. But when he tries to add another translation memory, this is all grayed out. This is all hidden for a very simple reason. This is like a credit card number, and so only the owner of that translation memory should have the right to access that translation memory, to download it, to import new stuff, to delete it. So we keep it very private. Of course, I can add my own. If I'm another translator, I can add my own TM here. And I have access, full access to this one, but not to the others. So we want to make sure that the private resources are private. So they're kept like that. Okay. So one more thing that I want to show you is this little triangle that you can see here, and maybe in another segment here. These are the tags. Okay, this is how we manage tags. So to make it easier for you to read the text, we try to hide everything that we can. So you can see here the translation matches are hidden. There are no extra buttons in the interface. It's all very simple, very clean. And the same goes for the tags. I was showing before that you can display the translation matches by clicking here. You can do the same for the tags by clicking on this other button. So you can display the full tag. There you go. So what you see here is that the tags basically are treated as sort of XML tags, if you're familiar with that. And they are positioned correctly in the target segment, even though it comes from machine translation. MateCat is capable of adding tags where they belong when the suggestion comes from machine translation. So usually in that case, you don't need to do anything with the tags. But what happens if you remove a tag? Well, you get a warning. In this case here, I have a tag mismatch. And MateCat suggests that I press the less than key to add tags. So on my keyboard, I press that key, and I'm presented with a list of available tags. So I see in the source that I have this one, and it's there. I'm missing this one, so the closing tag, and I can just select it, add it, and it's gone. So this is basically how you add tags the easy way, let's say. But you can do it also in other ways if you like. If you prefer using the mouse, for instance, you can click here, drag and drop the tag wherever it belongs, like that. Or, of course, you can also copy and paste and stuff. And you get warnings every time there is some elements that are missing, like in this case. MateCat warns you. So it says, hey, here there's a symbol mismatch. Maybe you forgot to add this symbol to your translation. So you do that, and MateCat is happy. It's not an error or a warning anymore. Of course, you can even leave it there. There's no problem. It's just your decision. MateCat will warn you, and it's up to you to make a decision whether to use it or not. Now, there is one more thing that happens while you are translating. As you might have noticed, in the bottom bar here, these numbers appeared while I was translating. Basically, MateCat is analyzing how fast you are translating, so how much you are translating in each segment. And based on your speed, it will tell you that you're doing 244 words per hour, and so that you will be able to complete this job in 13 minutes. So MateCat is helping you understand how long it will take to work on a specific project. Not just that. We are using public translation memory, machine translation, private translation memories, but are those suggestions, are those matches really helping you? How do you find out? Well, down here you have this editing log link. When you click on that, you are taken to this table. And what you can see here is a list of all the segments you translated, how much time you spent on each segment, and how much you changed as compared to the suggestion. So if we look at this one, for instance, we changed something here. I actually misplaced the G tag. And so I'm getting a post-editing effort of 14% because I had to change something from the suggestion to my final translation. So in this case, I know that I only changed 14%. But what happens when I'm using machine translation? Is machine translation helping me? Well, what we find out by looking at these stats is, for instance, that this value from, I don't know, Spanish to Italian is around 23%. So if you are editing, post-editing only 23% of your sentences, it means that the machine translation is really helping you. If this number goes over, let's say, 60%, well, maybe machine translation is not that useful for you. So you should disable it for your projects, for instance, because it's not really helping. You have to rewrite too much of that. Now, there is one more thing that I want to show you. So when you create a project in MateCat by uploading the file like this, you can select the subject here. So let's say this is information technology. You can also select the segmentation that you want to apply. Now, at this stage, you can use a general one or patent. So if you're translating patents, you can use specific segmentation rules that take into consideration specific formulas, for instance. But there is one more thing that I want to show you now. So let's try and create a new project here. So again, running the same analysis as before. Okay, there you go. Let's open. So let's just translate a few sentences like this. Now, I am the translator here. Okay, so I'm translating or just accepting really the matches that MateCat is offering. But how do I know if I'm doing a good job? Maybe I can launch a revision. And down here again, there is another link that's called Revise. So when you open that, you can maybe send it to your colleague, your mentor, or another expert translator that you like working with. So you can send them this Revise link. What they can do is they have a look at your translation here, and if the translation is good, just like in this case, they can approve, move on. In this case, misurare la produttività e la qualità con MateCat. Again, good translation. But let's say that there's something wrong here. Maybe I don't want to say più velocemente, but I just want to say più rapidamente. I can fix this. You can see down here the changes, so like track changes in Word. And I can say that maybe this was enhancement in language quality, because I don't know, rapidamente sounds better than velocemente. It's just stylistic issues. So I can just say language quality or even style for that matter. and then approve and go on. Now, let's assume that in this sentence there is an error. Oh, here it is. Here we get an error, because in Italian we do it like that. So in this case, we have a language quality issue. So I mark that as an error and approve. While I'm doing this, I'm not just revising, but I'm also generating a quality report. The quality report basically tells you how many errors you found in the translation, and based on the number of errors for the entire word count, it will tell you whether your translation is good, excellent, fail, etc. In this case, I'm failing on the language quality because out of just 149 words, I have one mistake. That's a bit too much in this case because we want to keep the quality really high. Anyway, what you can do here is basically score the translations on a scale that goes from excellent down to fail. Pretty useful when you work with colleagues and you want to do revisions and maybe also exchange feedback on that. So this is MateCat and its functionalities for the professional translators. So you can use MateCat to translate pretty much any file formats, as you can see here. Microsoft Office, OpenOffice, web files, even scan files, so even PDF, even images in some instances can be translated because we do OCR on the files and extract the text that is translatable. You can translate XLIF, SDL XLIF. You can translate InDesign, or even Android XML, iOS strings, PO files, anything pretty much. And you can translate into multiple languages. So you can create projects into any number of languages. So like this. Now I'm going to play again with this because this is where it gets interesting. So myself, I speak English, I speak some French, I speak Italian, but I have no clue about this language here. I don't even know how to pronounce it really. Faroese, French, Italian. I don't speak Japanese either. So what I can do with MateCat is I can accept this project. Even as a professional translator, I can accept this project from my client. And I can say, I'm going to translate into Italian because this is my language. I know how to do it. But I don't know how to translate into French or into Japanese. So what I'm going to do here, well, basically, when you click on Translate, you always get two options. You can open this link and start translating, just like I was showing before, or you can outsource this translation to translated.net, which is the company developing MateCat. When you outsource the translation, basically, you know that you're going to pay 19 euros, and by tomorrow you will have the translation done, and you can resell that to your client. So basically, this is, on the one hand, how we keep MateCat free. On the other hand, and that's what quite a good number of our users are doing, that's how you can sell translations into new language pairs. So you can take from this assignment from English into French and resell it for, let's say, 30 euros or 40 euros, depending on your selling skills. And that's basically how we make money with MateCat and how you can make money with MateCat. So by selling new translation pairs to your clients. So I think I covered pretty much anything I wanted to show you today about MateCat. And now for the rest of the time that we have available, if you have any questions, if you want to know more about why we're doing this, what are the features, and what are the advantages for you of using MateCat, please feel free to ask in the chat. So Drew, back to you. Drew, are you there?
Sorry, I had my mute button on still. Apologies.
Okay.
Thank you for that, Alessandro. And there are quite a few questions that have come in, so thank everybody for submitting those. We do appreciate it. So let me go to the beginning. I'm trying to see here. So someone's asking about it's not updating confidential files, and would it be okay to use MateCat for confidential files? And I think you talked a little bit about security and sort of encryption, but can you talk a little bit about confidential files? Seeing as this is an online tool, who can see the translations other than what sort of assurances do you have for confidential materials?
Yes. So basically, it all depends on how you set up the project in MateCat. When you upload a file to be translated in MateCat, that file is only available to you as long as you don't share the translate link with anybody else. What I suggest you do for confidential translation is disable machine translation. So you go like that. You say, I don't want machine translation, and create a private translation memory. When you do that, basically, your translated segments will be stored in this private translation memory, which is only accessible using this private TM key. And your files will reside, of course, on servers. Those servers are are managed by us and are using the best security in terms of technological security. So firewall, antivirus, and all that. Of course, there is one thing to keep in mind. If the client is really concerned about confidentiality, he will usually take the file to translate to you maybe in a hard copy. Those kind of things don't go online. But everything that goes through email can actually be translated in MateCat.
Great, makes perfect sense. So again, still have time for questions for Alessandro. If you've got those for MateCat, put those into the GoToWebinar control panel, the blue-green box. Seems every webinar we have, someone asks about PDF files. I take it that's a significant pain point for translation professionals. And I know that when they're asking about PDF files, there's two questions. One, do you have a native file filter to work with PDFs that are unlocked or open? And then two, if you've got a scanned, locked, or dead file, an image PDF file, is there an OCR capability to convert that to text?
So while I'm replying, I can also show you what we do with PDF. This is a PDF with images and stuff. And so what we do is we can accept any kind of PDF. This one is vectorial, so pretty easy, but also scanned PDFs can be translated. What we do with scanned PDFs is we use OCR technology to extract the content and make it available for you to translate. Once you do the translation, just like I'm doing now, you can download the file at the beginning and check on the actual layout. So let's say layout is Tampa. This is basically the same file that I uploaded, except that it's been converted into a docx, but you can see that the formatting and layout is the same. What I suggest doing is upload your PDF files, be it scanned files or created by InDesign and stuff, download a preview and check the layout. If it's satisfactory, translate in MateCat, and then you will get a docx file that you can maybe fix a bit for the formatting and layout and deliver.
Great. And just, I didn't catch it, is the OCR component, is that also free and part of the free
Yes.
MateCat? Wow, that's terrific. And is that an OCR that you have developed, or you're using a third
Nope.
party?
It's a third-party component developed by Nuance, no secret there. So one of the best that is available in the market at the moment.
Yeah, Nuance is quite good with the OCR. That's great. I didn't know that there was a free OCR. So there's lots of reasons to use MateCat. And for those that are listening, again, another reason, if you haven't had enough from Alessandro already, there's some free OCR capabilities. So every webinar we do, someone always asks about PDFs. It's clear that the scanned or dead PDF files are a big hassle. So MateCat's a solution that allow you to sort of OCR, get a preview, and move along quickly.
Yeah, of course. I mean, as I was mentioning, you can even translate JPEG files. So let's say you take a picture of a document and you upload it to MateCat. We do OCR on that, and we try to extract all the content. But of course, the worse the quality of the image is, the worse the quality of the OCR can be. We are using the best technology and try to provide that for free. But of course, if it's all handwritten, there's no way you can translate a PDF or JPEG file.
Yeah, that would be a lot to
One
ask
thing
of any.
yeah, one thing that maybe I want to mention here, Drew, is that when we did the first webinar, we didn't have this capability. This is something that came out recently, so we just released these new file filters that also support all of this that I'm showing at the moment on the screen. So that's why you didn't know.
Yeah, that's a great list, and certainly the scan images, that's terrific. So here's a question about, I would say, real-time collaborative capabilities. So someone asked, does MateCat allow group work between different translators working on the same project using the same TM? So I think what they're looking for is the sort of real-time collaboration where you've got a project and you invite 2 or 3 friends or colleagues to work, you split the file, and you're all sharing a TM, a central TM repository, and maybe there's some communication during the sort of time you're working on this. So how do we, as a small group, work?
Yes, that's exactly one of the use cases for which we built MateCat. So when you get to the analysis page, which is this one, as I was showing before, you can split the same project in two. This is the one that I split earlier on. You can also merge it back once you're done. But what happens when you split it? And I'm going to show you just so it's easier to understand. So let's say you go to the analysis page, you want to translate this file with some colleagues, let's say up to 30 colleagues. Okay, let's pick just 3. You click on split, and you basically get 3 different parts. Each of them has an approximate number of words. You can change this if you like, but let's keep it like that for the demo. And what you get are 3 separate jobs. Let's open the second one. You're taken to this interface. Now, the first part, I cannot change it because it's not been assigned to me. But I can work on the second part down here. And again, there will be the last segments that I cannot edit. Now, while you are working on your second part, you're actually contributing in real time to the translation of all 3 translators. So you're sharing the same translation memory, same glossary, same files, and as I was showing before, you can even leave comments on these segments. So like this, can you help me? And your colleague will reply like that. So you can actually talk about issues that you have with specific segments. You can work collaboratively in the easiest way, I think. I mean, I've never seen another way of doing this easier than this. I must say I'm really proud about the collaboration features in MateCat.
Great. And I know that a lot of translators at Pros and folks that maybe even on this webinar, so we allow at pros.com different account types, and there's one where I'm a freelance translator, and there's another one I'm an agency outsourcer, and there's one that's sort of I'm both. And I think there's a common growth pattern on freelance translators. You get more and more clients, you get more direct clients, you got more agencies that are asking for work, and as your business grows, maybe 1 month, 1 week, sometime during the year, you have more business than you can do yourself, and you think, well, I'm not going to say no to this client. This is an important client that I have the relationship I want to manage as a business professional. I want to say yes to take this business, but I need to outsource it. I need to work with some colleagues to get this work done. Sounds like MateCat A provides some of those collaborative tools, and B allows you to do it simply and so for free. So for those folks that are in that kind of in between, we're growing. I'm not quite a freelance translator. I'm not quite an agency. I'm somewhere in between. I outsource occasionally. Sounds like MateCat's a really good and flexible solution, simply because you're not at that in between stage. If you're only outsourcing a couple of projects a year, you're never going to justify spending big money on a project management and agency management software. But now MateCat allows you as a freelance translator / outsourcer to have some of those same tools that the bigger agencies have. In fact, this is the same tool that agencies would would use. So as a freelance translator, you can do your job, and then if you've got that outsourcing need, you can kind of do it on occasion. So here's a great question, and Thomas, thank you for asking this. I think it's a good one to pose to Alessandro.
Yep.
Thomas says he's using MateCat and he likes it, which is wonderful to hear. Very easy and effective to use. He says the one and only problem, and this is, he puts a caveat, one and only, a lot of agencies are still requesting CAT tool specific technology. They're requesting as the agency, we want you as a freelance translator to use SDL Trados or MemoQ or WordFest. So they're in the translating environment, the pipeline that they're sort of giving this work to freelance translators, they're dictating, please use this other software tool. In that instance, is MateCat, are you guys doing anything to kind of put together a campaign, sort of marketing and promoting to agencies that, hey, there are cheaper and effective ways to maybe use something like MateCat? And maybe here's a better way of phrasing this. What could you give to Thomas to help Thomas convince an agency that wants to use a competitive tool set that MateCat is the right tool for that agency and for this project?
Well, we are pushing quite a lot on translation agencies to use MateCat. So we are promoting MateCat at every conference and online, and doing a lot of demos. You can see up here this red button, language service provider requests a demo. So we're talking to like 5 translation companies a day, more or less, that are interested in a demo of the tool. So there are 2 ways that we face this this question. One, technological. So we provide support for SDLXLIF files, for instance, so from Trados, and we are also working on creating filters for other CAT tools. I don't know, MemoQ, for instance. 2, of course, we are promoting MateCat to many translation companies and even to large clients. One that I can share information about is eBay, that they're using MateCat for their own production, and they're even customizing the tool for their own needs. So we're trying to promote the tool also out there. And I didn't want to bring this up in the webinar, but maybe Thomas can be interested in contacting us, because we have what we call an affiliation program for translators who want to promote MateCat to other translation companies. If you want to discuss this, maybe you can just drop me a line, and we'll find out how you can help us and how you can make money in the process as well.
I was muted again. Great, thank you, Alessandro, for that description. And I think that's a good approach. And certainly, there is some client education, and I think some's coming from MateCat. It sounds like there's some tools that you, as the individual translator, can do as well. So we had a couple different questions about just various privacy and again, sort of online. So I'll just throw all of them to you. Someone asked if you could show how to make a TM private, but as you're doing that, someone's asking, and again, this comes up kind of a lot. If I'm uploading a translation memory to a system like MateCat, what are the assurances that I have that it's going to be completely private, that MateCat isn't going to use my translation memory to train an MT engine, it's not going to use my TM to build their own corpus or glossary. So that's a kind of a general, declarative statement about how TMs are used. Secondarily, can you show how to make it private? And then lastly, again, still related to this, someone's asking, hey, the stuff's online, things can happen online, files disappear, what sort of backup? And I guess we're talking about the SSLA, is that correct? The service level agreement. How often is it backed up? So there's 3 all related questions. Generally, what do you do with content that's uploaded? What assurances do you have that MateCat's not going to use my TM inappropriately? 2, show us how to make a TM private. And then 3, what backup do you have if files, have you lost anything? What's, my protection?
Yeah, so let's start with the first one. How do we make the translation memory private? You have a TMX here, and you have the file to translate. By default, when you upload it to MateCat, when you upload a TMX to MateCat, we put it into a private translation memory. So when you upload a TMX, we generate this TM key, and that's where you store this translation memory. Of course, you don't want to generate a TM key for every project. So you have a panel here. When you click on Add Your Personal TM, where you have a list of all your private translation memories. They're identified by this alphanumeric string, but you can also assign a name to it, like we did before with this pros TM. When you create a TM like this, and you can add it to the project, so like an active TM here, what you can do is you can upload a TMX to this private space, private vault, let's say. Whenever you want, you can export that TMX, and you can even delete it. Now, one thing interesting to understand here is that a TM in MateCat is basically a private vault in the servers, and you can store any number of languages in that. And when you download your TMX here, you will get 1 TMX per language pair. Now, this is how you create a private translation memory. And if you mark this as update, your translations will only go into this private TM. You can add more. If they're not marked as update, you will not write anything into this, only into this one. Okay. When you have private translation memories available, you're not going to use the public translation memory to write into that. You will still get matches, but you will not write into the public translation memory. So this is how you create the TMs. Now, how do we guarantee that we don't do anything with that data? Well, down here you have the terms and conditions of MateCat, terms of service, and even our philosophy. So basically what we're saying here is that we don't do anything with that data. We store it in private vaults in our servers, and we keep it there. How secure are our servers? Well, maybe some of you are already familiar with MyMemory. Now, MyMemory is another product from Translated, and it's basically the translation memory that sits behind MateCat. This service has been running for 8 years now, so since 2007, and it's based on a redundant infrastructure with multiple databases and servers, and we don't lose data in that. That's something that we've been running for quite a few years, and I'm sure that many of the translators on the webinar today have used this maybe in Studio with the free plugin that we released. And that's basically the same technology that we are using. In terms of security, we're using the same technology that bank services use. So that's pretty secure, I would say. And there's one more thing to understand here. Of course, in the cloud, you could lose your files. But I'm pretty sure that it's safer to store files online than on multiple desktop computers that you don't control. This is typically the case for translation agencies. When they send out the files to the translators, those files will sit on a desktop of a translator that maybe has no clue about antivirus software or firewalls or even basic skills on how to protect that content. We take care of that, and we have over 8 years of experience in managing large web infrastructures for this kind of data.
Makes a lot of sense. And maybe there's another somewhat ancillary related. If someone's starting a project and they're in the middle of it and they want to come back, how is the progress saved? And I guess, is there an automatic saving? And this is always the question. My internet goes out. How much work am I going to lose? The last word, the last segment, the last sentence, the last minute? How often is the backup being done automatically for us?
The good news is you never lose your work here. 2 reasons. One, we save automatically. So every time you confirm a segment, you translate a segment, that is saved in the project and in the translation memory. So when you're here and you click on translated, that is saved. Okay, first thing. Second thing, we cache your translations in the browsers. So if you have an interruption in your internet connection, we cache some of your translations, up to 30, in your browsers, and then when the connection gets back, we send it to the servers. So basically, there is a temporary storing of your translations in your browser. When the internet connection is back, we will sync the translation with the servers. So that is done automatically. One more thing is, when you start working on this project and then you say, okay, I don't want to continue, I'll continue tonight or tomorrow. Well, your projects are saved in this management panel, which you can see here. Well, you have a list of all the projects with their progress report, so how much you've translated, how much you've revised, etc. And you can always access your projects from here. This is one of the few functionalities that requires the users to log in. But login is, again, free, and you just need a Google account to log into MateCat. And then you have the management panel.
And I didn't ask the question, but someone asked that exact question. If I leave and come back, how do I get back? So there's a login. I forget who asked that question. I deleted it. Forgive me. But there's a login to get back to that. We're just about the top of the hour, and I'm not going to get to every single question, so I apologize. But there's maybe a few questions that I think someone asked about the affiliate program. I'll make sure that MateCat's contact information, either Alessandra's email or email to get a hold of the MateCat team, will be included in our follow-up. So we'll get that to you. But there's been like 3 or 4 questions that I'd say are all kind of in the vein of outsourcing or finding or matching clients and translators that have the skill set. So one question was, I'm an outsourcer. How can I if I'm searching for a translator in MateCat, how can I discover individuals based on specialization? So I don't just want the language pair, but I want a field of specialization as well. So how can they choose that specialization? And then somewhat related, someone says, I'm a freelance translator. How can a fellow translator or agency or someone find me on MateCat if I wanted to be able to do projects? So does MateCat have any directory searching? Are you doing any sort of matching of client and translators, or is it really more just an environment to do the work?
No, we are not creating a marketplace for freelance translators, so that's not really what we're doing. But we provide the best available translator for any specific job. How do we do that? Basically, we have right now around 150,000 translators registered with the company. And when you create a project, what we do when we generate the quote is we find the best available translator for that job at that moment. You can find out who he is or she is by clicking on Read More here in this interface. And you'll find out that Cinzia will do the work for you. She has a 98% success rate. She's expert in these areas. She has 5 years of experience. And just with us, she translated 38,000 words. I don't know with other providers, but with us, that's what she's been doing. So that's how you check who your translators are. And of course, one thing to keep in mind is that when you outsource, you're not just outsourcing to the translator, but you're also working with project managers. So this price here comprises both translation and project manager. One of our project managers will take care of your project and make sure that the translator is actually the one that you want to work with. One more thing that I want to add here, just because I think we're running out of time. Any questions you have about the tool, the technology, or anything that I've been discussing today, you can ask also using this Get Support label here. You click on that, you enter your email address here, and you can just ask me anything. Okay? That will go to our support team, so we can provide any information that maybe you didn't get the chance to ask today.
Great. And again, I'll make sure you get some of that information and contact details through email that is delivered. So let me see if we got maybe one more question. Someone said they were a little bit late. They didn't hear how to create. And we are going to send a link to the video. So if you came late, unfortunately, I can't have Alessandra go over everything again, but we will send a email that'll have a link to the recording from today. Let's see here. I think we got through just about everything. I guess there was one question about file extensions and projects that you send out and get back. Are you able to dictate the file extension on the project you send out, and does it come back in that same file format? And can you change the extension when working on certain projects?
I'm not sure what extension the translator is referring to, what I can say is that if you upload a doc file, you get back a doc file, and the same goes for the others, except for the scanned files. So if you upload a PDF or a JPEG, what you get back is a docx file so that you can adjust the layout if needed.
And that's exactly the one part of the question. I think the other part was, is it possible to upload a doc and export OpenOffice? So can you change the file
No,
extension? No. Okay.
no,
And
that is
that
not possible.
doesn't that doesn't surprise me. That's not it's not common within a CAT environment to be able to change the file extension. That's usually not a process that most CAT tools do, simply because the file extension, there's a filter to be able to read and sort of see and do the things, and then the CAT tool
Yeah.
does it usually in Exelif, and then it puts it back in that same file format. Thank you for, again, your time. Thank you, everybody, for attending this webinar. Look for that follow-up email in a few hours. We have another free webinar today, and I think one or two more tomorrow. And we'll probably take December and part of January off, but we'll come back with the free webinars towards the end of January, early part of February. But Alessandro, thank you so much for your time. Thank you, everybody, for attending, and
Thank
enjoy the
you.
rest of your day.
Thank you very
Cheers.
much.
Bye-bye.